Hello again, world. Well, I went and did something crazy. I traded in my 2016 Harley-Davidson Roadster for a 2017 BMW S1000RR. I had been lusting after this thing, as all you 20-somethings out there probably have been. And I'm getting a little older, and I figured if I didn't do it now, I'm never going to get it done. So 50 years old hits in September, and I just went ahead and did it. I had to have it. I wanted to give a quick review of this bike. I'll be posting a few things, long-term type review. This one is of the bike bone stock. I have some plans to do things in the future, but for right now it's just bone stock. I picked it up on Friday, June 3rd, 2017, and I've had it for just a little over 2 weeks now. And I have, let's see, I have, went by it. Looks like 889 miles so far. I've been riding it pretty easy, although I have bounced off that 8,500 RPM rev limiter more than a few times. It's ready to go in now for its first service, get that RPM limit taken off of there. But I just wanted to go over some things. We all know these bikes, they're just fast. I mean, they are really fast. That's all there is to it. Can't say anything about it. You got the max risk videos out there, and other videos, guys doing crazy stuff. You're not going to get that out of me. Yeah, I ride it, but not like that. As far as I'm concerned, Max Risk, his time on this earth is limited if he keeps that stuff up. Oh my God, the guy can ride, there's no question, but what he does, man, it just belongs on a track. Anyway, I won't preach about that. I give him credit. He can ride like hell. You won't catch me doing that. Anyway, I have noticed some things about this bike. Some little oddities, some things that I don't exactly care for. I mean, they're not deal killers by any means, but it's stuff, some of the stuff I haven't really heard anybody report in any of the reviews that they've done. And I've been all over YouTube. I watched all the videos. I've done everything, and then I finally had to get one. So anyway, I'll get into it. You've probably heard that the front brake, there's some modulation that goes on between the front brake and the back brake when you use it. And that sounds good and all, except when you're on the pedal on that back brake and you're using the front brake too, that brake pedal, the foot pedal, moves around some. It's a little unnerving. You don't exactly feel exactly, what you're doing. It's like there's some kind of control that's taken away a little bit. Anyway, I don't really like the feel of that. It brakes fine, it stops fine, don't get me wrong, but when things happen like that, for you, and you're used to controlling it yourself, slightly unnerving. One of the other things that I've heard is that these things put out a lot of heat. Well, it's June here in Georgetown, Indiana, and I've ridden this thing in the high humidity where it's well up over 90 degrees, and yeah, the thing does kick some heat, but I really think I have an advantage here. I'm 6'4". I have some pretty long legs, and you can see this piece right here, part of the frame, surrounds the engine. This really does get warm. And if you're a shorter guy and your leg kind of, comes in close to that and hugs that tight, it can get uncomfortably warm. With my feet on the foot pegs, my top of my leg and knee rides up a lot higher than that. So I don't really suffer that fate. But I could see that if your leg naturally sits lower on the bike because you're shorter, you could feel that, and it can be kind of uncomfortable. Whenever I get up on the seat too hard and into the tank too hard, I'll feel it. But I mean, I scoot back a little bit and kind of pull my legs back from the sides, and it's not too bad. It's really livable. So the heat thing to me, especially if you're tall, it's not that big a deal. You just, it just doesn't bother me that much. I can live with it. It is there, but like I said, if you're a shorter guy, man, you could really, and your leg rides on that metal piece a lot. You are not going to like it, I can tell you. Another little nitpick that I have with the bike, and it's not really a deal killer, like I said, but you know, depending upon what you're doing, it can be a little unnerving. This is the premium package bike. It has the cruise control, and you know, when you're going down the road, it really is super nice to use. I mean, this is a sport bike. I've heard people give the reviews, yeah, it's comfortable. Hell no, it's not uncomfortable or not comfortable. It's a sport bike, man. These are not long-term cruisers. These are made to be rockets. You get down on them and you ride them. But the cruise control, it's nice when you're cruising town. You can set it, you know, go 45 in the 45 zone. You're not going to crack the sound barrier. So it's a super thing. However, there is a however. If you're up over 50, 55, you know, miles an hour or faster, and you have that cruise control set, and you get on the brakes to kill it, like, you know, not an emergency stop, but something happens and you know you got to get on the brakes. Boy, that with the engine braking combined with you getting on the brake, when that throttle just slams shut, the front end on this thing really dives. Even if you brake the cruise control with just the rear brake pedal, the front end still dives, not nearly as much as if you know you use the front brake lever. But you know, and depending upon what you're doing, if you're in a turn or something, it can upset the bike a little bit. I really wish BMW would have done something with the electronics package to either keep the front end from diving when that cruise control broke or was turned off, or did something else to maybe not let that engine braking kick in so hard and so soon, because it really does kind of upset the bike a little bit. The front end dives, and you know, like I said, depending upon what you're doing, you're in a turn or something or whatever, might be scary. It hasn't been scary for me yet, but I could see that being a problem for somebody someday. One of the other things that I've heard in a lot of these reviews is, you know, this thing has a good bit of vibration to it. Well, I'll admit this. This is the first leader bike I've ever ridden. In fact, I had never ridden a leader bike until I owned this and drove it off the lot. I didn't even take it for a test drive. I just bought it, had to have it. What can I say? So anyway, they say it vibrates some. I traded in a Harley Roadster, and let me tell you, this bike does not vibrate compared to a Harley Roadster. May not be, you know, one of the metric Japanese silky smooth bikes, and again, I have no experience with that, but this, compared to the Harley, there is no comparison. This thing doesn't vibrate, it purrs. That's what I would call it. And my last little nitpick is going to be with the automatic shifter. Yes, it has that automatic shifter. You don't have to use the clutch to shift through the gears. There is a however. That thing does not work exactly the same time every time. It depends on, you know, if you're downshifting or upshifting, obviously. Depends where you have the throttle, how hard you are in it. And you know what you're doing at the time, and what you're doing at the time, it'll shift consistently then, but not consistently throughout the throttle range. It you know, feels a little goofy that way. And I'll also say that the lower gears, you know, first, second, and third, especially the first and second when you're coming through neutral, it's slower to shift. It won't just bang in there instantly, and you wait for it, and it doesn't exactly happen as quick. And I'm riding the thing in race mode, so you know, there shouldn't, in my mind, be a delay. And I wish the shifting was more uniform regardless of the throttle position or RPMs. And with this electronic shifter, it just isn't like that. It's just slightly different based on RPM, throttle position. Just doesn't feel exactly the same all the time, and I wish it did. Now, if you use the clutch and all that, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing every time. But you know, for the automatic shifter, it's just, you know, if you're going to race this thing or something, I would think you would want a little more precision with it, and you just don't have it. Oh, one more thing, going back to getting off the cruise control, and this is just my style. It's, you know, I'm not recommending it. It's just what I've liked to do now that I own the bike. Instead of getting on the brakes when you have the time, you know, to stop the cruise control from being engaged, I will just pull in the clutch and do it that way. That way you don't get the big front end nosedive, and it's not so bad, because, you know, if even if you just turn the cruise control off with the lever or the little button when you're going down the road, the engine braking still makes that front end dive a little bit, and again, depending upon what you're doing, can upset the bike a little bit. Now you're not going to be going like hell with the cruise control on, I'm sure, but you know, at highway speeds 55, 60, 65 or 70 miles an hour, you disengage that, man, it just dives right down. Anyway, I just don't like that. But in no way, none of these things I've brought up is a deal killer for this bike. It's just, you know, the nitpicky things. You pay 20 grand for something, and you know, you want it to be perfect, and you know, you get it home and then you figure out what it's really all about. And again, like I say, none of it's a deal killer. It's just is what it is with this bike. And I will say, it is a bad mother. The thing will scream. And I don't even have the rev limiter lifted off for the break-in period. As soon as that comes off, man, it's just gonna fly. Anyway, I'll report back after I get that rev limiter taken off. Right now, I think I've hit all the points I wanted to hit. Some you might not have heard before in all these reviews, but it's just my 2 cents. It's my take on the thing, and you know, hope it's helpful. And oh yeah, would I buy it again? Hell yes.